See if you got this right. One area or two?
One.
I agree. Normal F or opposite F? Opposite function. Opposite. It's below the axis, so you need to negate it. Let's see. Negative. First is 4 plus 1 minus 4. Second is 16 plus 8 plus 8. That's nice. So I get negative of 1/4 minus 3 minus 4. I get negative of negative 1/4 minus 7. That's negative 6 3/4, so I get 6 3/4. Or 27/4. Did you win?
Yes.
Okay, here's checking your work. First of all, do you agree with my integrand? Did you distribute correctly and get x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4?
Yeah.
Okay, then do you agree with the antiderivative 1/4 x to the 4th plus x cubed minus 4x?
Yep.
Do you agree with what you get when you put 1 in? A 4th plus 1 minus 4.
Yeah.
Do you agree with what you get when you put negative 2 in? 16/4 or 4 minus 8 plus 8. If you agree with that, then you're good. After that, kind of goes to how you distribute, but I just called it 1/4 minus 3 minus 4. All right. Well then, either which way you look at it, figure out what you did wrong, and let's go to today's lesson. Build off yesterday's lesson. Here we go. Instead of area between an axis and a curve, you're talking area between two curves. Here's a nice straightforward example. It goes a little like this. I want the area between those two graphs. Let's start with a graph of the region. X squared plus 2. What do you know about that graph? Alex? X squared plus 2. Parabola opening upward, shifted up 2. What do you know about 2x plus 5, Emily? So, okay, excellent. So, slope of 2, shift of 5. The area between them then is there. That's what we're looking for. Are you with me so far? The thought process goes like this. This is note purposes. You won't typically do all this drawing, but for the purposes of notes, you would have to find where these meet. Let's call them A and B for now. And then, as you might expect, integrals find area below the curve to the x-axis. So we could say, well, I'm just going to find the area under the line as if that parabola wasn't there, but then I'll remove the part under the parabola, and therefore be left with the part between. Are you with me? Okay, so now the calculus will look something like this. The area of the shaded region, the area between, will be the area under the line. How do I find area under the line? Integral of 2x plus 5 from a to b, which again we'll have to find. And we're going to remove, how do you find the second shaded region?
Plus the integral of
x squared plus 2. Now I could certainly find each separately and do that, but I would have to do a little more work than if I put them together. We typically go the reverse. When we integrate a sum, we can split it into separate integrals, yeah? Can that be reversed? And when we have separate integrals, can we put them into one? Sure. We can make this the single integral of 2x plus 5 take away x squared plus 2. Now, if you were to think about the meaning of this in terms of rectangles, which is the foundation of all this stuff, this here would be like if you said, well, when I do my rectangles, I could find the total region all the way down to here, but then take away this part, and what's left is this rectangle that's floating in space between. That's what this is doing. It's taking the height of line, remove parabola, gives me between, and then the dx is still the base of the rectangle. Do you follow? Okay then, here we go. To do this, we need to do a few things. What do you want to do first?
Clean it up.
Clean it up. Okay, so we can clean it up. A to b of 2x, wouldn't you get a 3 after combining like terms? Minus x squared? Okay, good idea. Clean up. What else are we going to need to do? We're gonna need to integrate, but what are we going to put in eventually? A and B. Well, I don't know what A and B are. So you will need to actually find the intersection. You actually graph it first, and this very next thing you'll do is find the intersection points. What's the algebra I would do to find where graphs meet? Thank goodness I teach at this school where you can do this. I hope. X squared plus 2 equals 2x plus 5, which means x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0 if I put everything on one side, yay? Does it factor?
Yeah.
How? Minus 3 and plus 1. So the roots, or the zeros, are 3 and negative 1, yay? That kind of match with my picture? Yeah. So the limits, I'm going to change A and B to negative 1 and 3. All right? Integrating, what's the antiderivative of 2x? X squared. What's the antiderivative of 3? And what's the antiderivative of negative x squared? Negative x cubed over 3, or 1/3 if you like, from 3 to a negative 1 to 3, right? Do I put in 3 first or negative 1 first? 3. When I put in 3, I get 9 plus 9 minus 9. That's delightful. When I put negative 1 in, I get minus 3 plus 1/3, okay? 2 of the 3 9s drop away, and I have 9. This would be negative 2, but minus negative 2 minus 3, yeah? Minus 1/3 rather, sorry. We? Okay, so I get, what, 11 minus 1/3? So my answer is 10 2/3 or 32/3. Here's the area between. You follow me? All right, try one on you. Find the area between. I'm actually going to change this a little so it's cleaner. Would you change this to just x squared? I think is that going to make your life easier? No, that's not good. So 2 minus 2 minus 2 minus 8 minus 9, 14. Let's go minus 14. That'll be good. Go minus 14. You'll thank me later. All right. Did you get a corresponding picture and intersection points of 3 and -3? Excellent. No way. None. Okay, cool. For your integrand, what is, oh shoot, I wish I would put this in your notes. Would you please put in your notes upper minus lower for positive area. Always use upper minus lower for positive area. That's how you're going to get a positive outcome, by getting a positive height. So what's the upper here? 4 minus x squared or x squared minus 14? When you clean up, what do you get? Maybe something like 18 minus 2x squared. Okay. 18x minus 2/3 x cubed. Like that. Wait. Or did you take the 2 out? I guess either way. What is 18 times 3? 54. 2/3 of 27 minus negative 54 minus 2/3 of negative 27. I tend to go too fast and make mistakes, so I'm trying to slow myself down. So what is 2/3 of 27?
Whoa, 18.
Is 18, yeah? So
Yeah.
54 minus 18 minus negative 54 plus 18. I'm getting 36 minus negative 36, and that is 72. Did you win? Okay. Tell me this. Was there symmetry to these graphs?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so how could I have used that in how I approached the problem? Yeah, I could go only half from 0 to 3 and double. What would that do for me? Why? Yeah, 0 is a heck of a lot easier to put in than -3 is, right? So that would not be a terrible approach. That would be fine, but only using when you know there's symmetry to the graphs. All right, let's try these without or with a calculator. Would you pick up a calculator and graph those two? Oops. E to the x over 2, and I think 3 minus x squared. Graph those. What are we going to need to do? Find the intersection points.
Oh, jeez. It's never bad. I mean, speak for yourself.
All right, so, your intersection points, is the storing going
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
So this guy, it looks like the intersection points between -2 and 0. And do we store the x or the y? X. I don't really care about the y yet, but you will later. Okay, once you store it, it should be bold. -1.596 looks like my leftmost intersection point. Are we cool?
Yeah.
All right, the rightmost intersection point is between 0 and 2.
Oh.
And I'm getting 1.118. Did you store that to B?
Yes.
All right, now we're going to use the calculator to evaluate the integral, but let's pause and set up the work. When I go to show the work, if it's calculator active, this is what I expect, this is what the AP expects. You don't have to show the graph. I don't need to see the graph. You do have to show the integral that you used. The lower intersection point was, I cannot remember already. It was 1.596. Give me 3 decimals. The upper intersection point is 1.118. If these functions had function names like f and g, then by all means feel free to call them f of x and g of x. If, however, they are named with y's, you cannot say y minus y. That's absolutely terrible. Do not even think about it. So if they're named y's, let's write them e to the, which one's upper actually?
I mean, no, the 3 minus.
3 minus x squared is upper. Subtract e to the 1/2 x lower. That's all you have to write on your paper besides the answer. Have the calculator calculate the integral value, shift plus, hopefully you have your variables, your endpoints stored. Hopefully you remember which function was in F1 and which one was in F2, which
Yeah,
I
messed
don't.
that up.
I don't remember. It was F1 is, so I need to go F2 minus F1.
Yeah.
It's depending on how the order you used, but surely you need to get that order right. All right, and when you do that, you better see a positive. If you don't, you better bust out the old eraser because you did it wrong. These are geometric areas. They should always be positive. 3.7236 is what I'm getting. Boom. That's some good energy. Could you go 723 for an answer? You could. Could you go 724 for an answer?
Yeah.
You could. Could you go more for an answer?
No.
You could. Okay. All right. So that's calculator. Let's go back to no calculator now and do. All right. So graph y equals x squared. Graph it well. It takes 1 extra millisecond to do it well as opposed to 5, so just do it well. Negative x plus 2.
I refuse to do this.
Looks like that. All right, so we've got a graph. Now the hard part is that I don't know what to make out of this area between the curves on -2 and 2. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know where -2 is in reference to those intersection points. I don't know. So let's get into the intersection points and then figure out what the shade is going to go like. So x squared equals -x plus 2. How do you solve that?
Just make it all to one side.
Well, on one side, x squared plus x minus 2. Does it factor?
Yeah.
How? Plus 2 minus 1. Therefore, the roots are -2 and 1. All right, so in terms of where we're at, -2, that's nice. And 1 is, suppose, that line, isn't that line going to have a slope of down 1 over 1? So when it starts at y equal 2, it'll end at x equal 2 for the yeah?
Yeah.
All right, now shading. Read the word between. Okay, here's the deal. The first region between is pretty obvious. They're talking about this. But what about between past?
Oh, on like the outside.
Yeah, you're gonna get this region here. Actually, I'm gonna do it in a different color. This region here is between the two curves. Okay, so that is the most important part when you get to the AP problems. It's very common that you find the wrong region that they're asking for. You've got to read carefully and make very clear you're finding the correct region, or otherwise you're going to be wasting your time. So, because it's two different upper minus lowers, what do you reckon we're going to need to do calculus?
Two integrals.
Two integrals. The first integral will be from
-2 to 1.
of what minus what?
Of the upper, which is negative x plus 2.
Minus the lower. Okay, and then the second integral from where to where?
From 1 to 2.
1 to 2 of
Upper, lower.
upper.
Squared.
Okay, be very careful, as always, with parentheses. You're subtracting the whole line. Make sure the whole line is in parentheses. Or distribute the negative, whatever you want to do. Okay? If I do a cleanup step, you think?
I'd say so.
All right, let's be safe, shall we? Negative x plus 2 minus x squared is the first integrand or thing I'm going to integrate. And x squared plus x minus 2 is the second integrand.
Yeah.
All right. What is the first antiderivative?
Negative x squared over 2.
Negative x squared over 2 plus 2x minus
X cubed over 3.
x cubed over 3 or 1/3 from negative 2 to 1. Second integral is going to have a lot of similar antiderivatives, but different signs in places. 1 to 2. Be careful. I would suggest you're basically doing 4 sets of parentheses and 2 sets of brackets. So negative 1/2 plus 2 minus 1/3 minus negative 4 halves minus 4 minus 8/3. That's, oh, sorry, my thing's not doing it yet. You're right. 8/3 plus 4 halves minus 4 minus 1/3 plus 1/2 minus 2. Okay, in here I have negative 1/2 plus 4 halves is 3 halves. 2 minus negative 4 is 6, and negative 1/3 minus 8/3 is negative 9/3, 1 negative. Just call that that's plus 7/3. 4 halves minus 1/2 is 3 halves. Negative 4 minus negative 2, negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. 3 halves plus 3 halves is 6 halves. 6 plus negative 2 is 4. Negative 9/3. 7/3 is negative 2/3.
Oh, that's some
So I get 7 minus 2/3. I get 6 1/3. Okay. All right. You follow me? Okay. Obviously, it should be positive. You try one. Try this one on your own. Do not use your calculator at all, not even to graph them. You should know what the graphs look like.
Just kidding. It's not that weird. It's kind of weird. Alright. That's just stinky. Wait, this can't be done.
Yes, it can.
Oh, yes, so that.
That should be easy with the graph.
Yes. I think one is one minus. Yes, don't skip the time. Don't do it. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. I tried.
What's your first integral, bounds, and integrate? Two. 1 minus c to the x or e to the x minus 1?
1 minus c.
And then you do e to the x minus 1 from 0 to 2. True. All right. Now, if you could just evaluate it well, not going with the ridiculous assumption that when you put 0 in, you get nothing. That's not true.
You don't even know math if you do that.
Exactly, Tommy. You said it.
Oh my gosh. Did you guys get
So I'm getting something like -2 plus e to the -2 plus e to the positive 2.
Yes.
Okay, we all agree? All right, cool. I think we're okay here. So try this bad boy with your calculator. This is calculator active.
It better be.
Yeah, it's pretty gross, I gotta say.
nasty?
All right, so
Oh, that makes more sense.
darn it. 1 plus
So bad. Whoa.
Oh, that's better.
Tap.
Hey, so the area enclosed.
We don't have to do that.
Oh my lord.
There's 3 interceptions.
Intersection.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Intersection.
all right, so I'm getting something. Like that. Okay, so how many intersection points? 3. 1, 2, 3. And I have 2 different upper minus lower situations, so I'm going to need to find those 3. So intersection. This guy's about from
No, you definitely have to zoom in.
to
You guys have to zoom in.
Oh, you have to zoom in. Wow. What is that right?
at first intersection, x is negative 2.29 something. Store it to A. You have negative 2.29 seconds to the leftmost. Then,
Yep.
intersection B,
Let's even make that A.
maybe store that second one when I'm getting 0.8 something. A B. 0.897. Okay,
Just keep it like rabbit.
and then
Oh, no, I said X.
intersection C is between maybe.
My calculator's trying
And
to
2.1004.
Yup.
Okie dokie.
Between.
Hopefully you have 3 intersection points stored. Oui. All right. So in region, the left region, are we going to go cube over sinusoid or sinusoid over cube?
Cube over.
Cube over sinusoid. So it'll have to be cube minus sinusoid. But in the second region, sinusoid minus curve or cube. Okay, so here we go then. The first integral is from negative. Can't remember what it was.
Negative 2.297.
Negative 2.297 to,
0.898.
and is it f minus g or g minus f?
F minus G. Oh, I can write down minus G.
Cube on top, right?
Yep.
Okay, so f minus g. And I'll just say this in passing. I see a lot of your working with no differentials. On the AP test, they will not turn off if you have no dx there, but I can tell you what it calls for. Well, they will absolutely leave you for that. They'll rip you to pieces. This might not mean much to you, but it means a lot to them. It means a lot to me, so you better put it there. Okay? When you get to, at the very least, top three, you see how many different permutations, depending on that one little differential, you'll say, oh, yeah, it kind of matters. All right, so at any rate, the next region is from 0.898 to
2.100.
0, and f minus g or g minus f?
G minus F.
G minus f. All right, and
Oh my, that's
did we calculate that?
6.7.
Okay, let's just take, who said that, Lily? Or Bailey? Who said that? What'd you say, Lily? 741? Let's take Lily's word for it. I assume it's good. Okay. Would you, just to make sure you understand the idea of yesterday and today, would you, let's just go around the room here. Marcus, how would you find, what integral would you do to find the geometric area enclosed in that first?
would be A, or from, yeah, A to B. Would be just
That's a G, sorry. But is it normal G or opposite G? You'd have to do opposite there because it's below the axis. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. What about B? Evan, what would you do for the second one going right?
I would go A to B of f of x
Okay?
minus negative
Minus negative or just minus?
minus if it's a negative area of B to C.
I agree. I am, in the interest of space, leaving off the differentials and all that, just after I told you how important it is, I'm leaving them off myself. How about the third one? Cole, what do you think on the third one? Think that's today's topic, so think upper minus lower. This isn't the axis anymore, it's two curves. A to B of?
A to B of y minus h.
Not y, you have to use 2 there. but I understand what you're saying, yeah? 2 minus h. Cool. What about the fourth one? Radical, what do you think? I don't have a name. Let's call it f. 2 minus f plus? F minus 2, I agree. Upper minus lower. Aaron, what do you think on the first one and the second row? F minus g, true. Ms. Brown, what do you think on the sixth one? I agree, sorry, it took me a second. Plus? I agree. What about Heather? What about, or actually, Heather, go ahead. What about the seventh one?
What's the middle?
This, I assume that's the axis, so assume that's 0.
0 A, B, G, X.
I think that's an A, but 0 to A, my handwriting's terrible. F minus G or G minus F? Isn't this is F, right? So F minus G, do you agree? And Bailey, Bailey, how many integrals for the last one? 1 or 2? 2. The first one, what is it?
Wait.
Of G, I agree. What's the second one? Tyler?
A to B.
I agree. All right, you get the idea? Okay, cool. Now, I can't remember if I made it clear to you yesterday that some of the questions that you had, did I talk about how I would post the answers to? Okay, good. So, I don't know if you used them, but last night's homework in the calendar, if you went to my website and looked under more details, you should have had, I worked out basically everything I had a question on, or replaced on 57 and 58. I was told, although we got through a lot of these questions together in your class, So, hopefully 57 and 58 can be turned in by the end of the day, yeah? So instead, let's go to 59, and let's start with the replacements. This is off 59, it's on the back of 59, you see where I'm at. Okay, cool. If we didn't do 58 in class?
No.
Oh. What questions do you have on 58?
There's number 1. That one kind of thrown
21.
21?
And the one on the replace one on the back. The like big one.
Okay. Alrighty. Actually, I'll post this. Okay. 58, 1. Okay. First, rather than just make it a floating circle with a floating square, put it on the coordinate plane. The reason is then you can use equations. Okay? The circle has a radius of 2 units. So let's start with the question. What are you trying to optimize? Optimize the area of the circle or the rectangle? Rectangle, all right. Now, get an equation for that, what you're trying to optimize. What's an equation for area of a rectangle? Base times height. Now, in coordinate terms, base is 2 x's, and height is 2 y's. So let's go 4xy. Now, that's 3 variables. We'd like to get from 3 variables down to 2. What's another relation? X squared plus y squared equals 4. So y we could say is the positive root of 4 minus x squared. So now the area is 4x root 4 minus x squared. We?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we want to do our calculus. We want to find where a prime goes positive to negative. The derivative here requires skill. Be careful. What do you do to get derivative? Product and chain. So a prime is, first stays the same, 4x. What is the derivative of the second? 1/2 4 minus x squared to the negative 1/2 times the inside derivative by chain rule. Plus second stays the same, root 4 minus x squared times the derivative of the first, which is just 4. Product rule, check. Alright, we good so far? You need to know this is zero undefined. What algebra shall I do to get there? You want to make these fractions and get a common denominator. So, what is the common denominator? Root 4 minus x squared. So this first term you didn't do anything to. When I divided the 2 out, I had negative 4x squared as the numerator of the first product, yeah? And the second one, when you multiply it by 4 minus x squared rooted, you get a normal 4 minus x squared and a 4 outside of it. You follow? Yeah. All right. Cleaning up the numerator then. Overall, you get 16 minus 8x squared over 4 minus x squared. Okay, a prime is 0 if 16 minus 8x squared is 0, which means x is plus or minus root 2. A prime is undefined if x is 2, but in terms of the picture, look at the picture. If x is 2, and the base of the rectangle is going all the way out to the circle, that's down. That's minimum area, not a maximum area. You follow? I think you'll agree that when x is less than root 2, x would be small and the numerator is positive, implying that the area was increasing up to that point. After root 2, x gets bigger, this is negative, implies area starts to decrease up to that point. So did we get a max when x is root 2? We did. Okay, so now answer the question. The area is, the base is, the height is, I think they ask it all. The easiest place to go is the base. If x is root 2, then what's the base of the rectangle? 2 root 2. I think you'll find that when you find y, y is also root 2, so the height is also 2 root 2. Now that you know the base and the height of the rectangle, you can easily find the area. The area is 8. Okay, are we good?
Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
21 replaced or not? It is replaced?
Yes.
Alrighty then. I'm just gonna post this in. I think I will come. Thank you though. 58. All right, so you say 21 is a humdinger. I'll be the judge of that. Oh boy. Okay, there was one like this in your notes, but it is difficult, so it's, oh goodness, that's so loud.
Thanks, sure.
That's really loud. All right, here we go. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What are you trying to maximize? That's an equation for revenue. When you're selling some stuff, how much you collect depends on two things. How much it's going to cost and
month of Manitoba.
What do you
She is
sell?
nominated by
Call it N.
Anna is an extremely dedicated worker
That's
and
three
asks
variables.
questions to clarify her understanding in class. Anna thoughtfully takes her time while writing literary analysis and takes great care to make sure each comma is in the right place. Plus, she has scored 100% of every word of the course in her test she's taken. Keep up the great work, Anna.
Which is the dependent variable on which do you get to choose? Do you get to choose price or how many you sell? You get to choose price. Does that make it X or Y?
Participate in class each day. He is a role model
Okay.
for other students, always
And the
giving
one
his
they
best
give you
effort and
is
dedicating his time to his studies.
$10, 120 sold. All right, cool. The slope, which is normally changing Y over changing X, is changing number over changing price. What's the slope?
Our high school scholar of the month is Bryce Forsgren. He was nominated by Miss Tweedy. Bryce is one of my most dedicated students.
-1.
He goes
So
above
an
and beyond
equation
to support
is,
free. He has a
instead
strong
of
desire to learn and to
this,
success. Bryce is good talent. Bryce is determined to be
we're
the
gonna
best
do
he can be. I am so
this.
grateful for his hard work and daily efforts in class. He can be quiet but works hard to improve his presentation
So an
skills
equation
and
related to
cooperate
number
with
sold
others
is
in
a
class.
function of what
Thank you,
price I
Bryce, for
sell
all of your
is.
work in and out of the class. Front Range Community College in Westminster is hosting a Math and Science Pathway on Friday, November 15th. Must pre-register. See counseling for details. Hey Dad, next week, November
I'm getting
18th
that,
through
yeah?
22nd, is the Canned Food Drive brought to you
Pretty
by
cool.
Spanish Honor Society.
Hey,
Bring canned third hour class to support those in need.
so when I do that, I get -20p squared plus
The class with the most
320p.
chance wins a party before winter break.
Now find where R prime goes positive to negative for the max.
For you. They can be ordered until
Yep.
Monday, December 2nd. Purchase on Jeff Kofi's website or the financial office. The cost is $22 and
Only to get the
Don't miss out on
equation.
this fun tradition and important
Oh, justification, that would never work, no.
Are you interested in
Yeah, that was
joining
just
the
gonna be
Death of
standard,
Winter
that's
Guard?
not, that's not.
Auditions for Winter Guard will be held after school from 3 to
Sorry, no.
5:30 on Thursday. No experience is necessary.
Calculus, gotta be
Be
calculus.
sure to support our Devils basketball program on Wednesday,
That was
November
just me
13th.
teaching, introducing the idea.
At any of the
Alright,
It
replacement.
is an all-day event and make sure you mention Devil basketball. 50% of the purchase price will go to this awesome program. Hey Dad, want to take a break and relax? Come to the Triad Coffee Game on Thursday, November 14th from 2:30 to
So
3:30 in the
the
senior
total
lounge.
rate of change
No works of art by
is
illustration
the
along with refreshments
in
and
minus
refreshments.
out. In rate
The available benefits
and
are
it's the out rate.
nonprofit promoting artistic expression
So that's
in
P
Navajo.
of T
See you there.
minus R of T. Or if you like, this equal that is
Did I mention that there will be cake? Sorry, junior high students, this is a high school only event. Seniors, are you launching your college
so
application?
there's the net rate.
Early application deadlines of November 15th.
This is two rates, in versus out.
You need transcripts and now to these deadlines, please stop at
The in
counseling.
rate adds to the number of packages, the out rate subtracts.
The last submission game for ninth graders. You
Very
can
cool.
be only with your assigned counselor. If your last name begins with S or W, you will be required to do 100 for 7 hours a day. If your last name begins with C through D, you will
Just
be
gonna
required
share
counseling.
this.
Some ninth graders will be required to take 7 hours a day for this event. The 7th grade strength explorer survey for last name are being rescheduled for
So
Thursday.
the graph, when you look at it, has a little below, most above, and a little below at the end.
Thanks for your patience. Hey guys, it's time for your daily day of the day. Happy World Kindness Day. That's all your announcements, Jack. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, so this is on my website under yesterday in the calendar, so you can, if you're still stuck on the replacement problem, you can look at that. I'll make sure I get 57 and 58 today, and we'll go over, well, it's kind of a catch-up day and practice day. Get ready for
Andrew
final
Fuller,
day.
not from this side today?
Work day. Have a nice day. You should be turning 2 sets in today. It was the 3